Support for the Pocketnow podcast comes from Oregon State University. Earn your Oregon State MBA 100% online in a program that's designed to help you move up or make a career change. You can choose from specialized tracks in organizational leadership, business analytics, marketing, or supply chain and logistics management. Get where you're going faster with the Oregon State MBA. Learn more at mba.oregonstate.edu/pocketnow. Well, I think that's as good a place to start as any. Jaime and I are joined today by Kevin Keating, and I don't want to mess up your actual job title over at MediaTek, so you can tell everybody.
First, thanks for having me here. It's great to be with you guys.
Of course, man.
Yeah. I'm a global communications director for MediaTek.
All right, so we are here in rainy Mumbai, India. It is really, really raining out there.
It is
not just raining, it's windy horribly.
Why did you bring us out to monsoon season?
You know, when you product launch, it's just about the timing.
Exactly.
No control over the rains.
The announcement, the actual event itself was actually in Delhi, where it was not this rainy. It was actually quite beautiful out there. But in general, India is just a beautiful place. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I do want to give you the floor and give our viewers and listeners who may not be keeping up with all of the news the chance to give the info about the announcement about the Helio G90 and all of that.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll keep it short, but you know what we came here for was the G90 series, which is our first G is for gaming, our first gaming chip, kind of jumping into that niche gaming market, right? Mobile gaming has become a lot more popular the last year. You've seen other device makers wanting to focus on gaming phones in particular. So that was the idea behind the G90. Let's get some of that market share of the mobile gaming. We launched at the same time in India and in China, which are two of our really big markets.
Yeah. So we've been recently over the last year or so, we've actually been working with a lot of gaming phones. And it's definitely a big trend that's coming up. We both have differing opinions about mobile gaming.
Yeah, you love it. And I'm so impressed at how much time you spend playing with different games on your phone. And I'm like, how does he do it? There's a 10-year difference between you and me. I need controllers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can play with the touchscreen.
I 100% agree that controllers really help the experience, but at the same time, I feel like mobile gaming is a perfect way of getting, like, let's put it this way: if I ever have kids, I'm going to have them play the classics of my era, but they're able to on a phone.
Yeah.
And that's what really excites me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are all these like old Final Fantasy games and classic like NES games and all that are being adapted to mobile.
Yeah.
So for anybody out there that might focus on the PUBGs of the world, the Arena of Valors, there's a new game called Life After that I didn't even know about that looks really cool. There's more to it than that, which I think is the point I always try to make when it comes to mobile gaming.
Yeah.
But what is it about mobile gaming that made MediaTek decide to actually create a chip specifically for this?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it's what you guys were talking about, right? It's become kind of a generational thing where everything's moved to mobile. You're doing it on mobile. And whether you're used to console or not, I think it's a time killer, right? If you're commuting, traveling,
or
you're on your phone.
18-hour flight.
And if you're a gamer, you're gaming. 18-hour flight. Yeah. So, I think that's exactly, what the device makers are looking at. They're looking at, one, differentiation, and two, how to meet the demand for this new market and this generation that's used to being on their phone the entire time.
Do you mobile game at all?
I'm like Jaime. I'm like, no, I play games on it, but I'm definitely not a gamer.
Puzzles, I imagine.
It's Bubble Burst.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's a cool time waster.
It is a cool time waster. It's downtime.
Yeah.
Big in India is PUBG, and we did some partnership with PUBG to test the device. So making sure it works on the most popular games that people are using.
Yeah.
PUBG, Fortnite.
But here's the thing. So I think that probably what I liked the most about the presentation was, and we'll talk about Xiaomi in a bit. But during the demos, I was, all right, so one of the things that I don't like about, these, we have this conversation with my son where you can play Fortnite, you can play PUBG, but then when you get a phone call, even if you get the overlay on the top of your game, and that doesn't block your gaming, you have the problem that because these are online games, it automatically cuts off the communication.
Yep.
And so you're shot and dead.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I liked about your chip is that it addresses a couple of the things that are not addressed even by the highest end competitor, which is that it literally separates communication.
Yeah.
And you can get a phone call. I actually have B-roll of that while you were playing.
I was playing.
That we could actually overlay it on this video.
For sure.
But we continued playing like if nothing was happening.
Right. I think that's what I liked about some of the features for G90 was it addressed some of the real pain points for the gamers. And that was the call and data concurrency. And for any game, it annoys me when I'm playing my simple game, right? When the call comes in, it stalls the game and you're either out of the game or you have to go back to it. So yeah, just some of those, the latency issues and some of that, like I said, call and data concurrency, some of those that the gamers really had problems with when they were on their mobile.
Yeah. And then the second thing was, well, you guys are, and we're going to talk about MediaTek in general, because after that trip to Taipei, I was like really impressed on every single product you guys are on. But because one of your biggest businesses is television.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are pretty much on every smart TV out there.
A lot of them.
Yeah. Like you're also using some of that capability into bringing enhanced capabilities for the display while you're playing
Absolutely.
a game.
And why not, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that has been like MediaTek's forte from the start.
Yeah.
Was, that the display, the picture quality, the imaging. We have a lot of different technologies. I won't list them all that go into that display technology. So we've been bringing a lot of that cross-platform. Like you said, taking the stuff we've done for TV, taking it to mobile, some of the voice assistant, smart speaker stuff transfers over to mobile and even into TV, including the AI. AI works cross-platform.
Yeah.
And now clearly gaming is the next frontier. One thing that I probably should know the answer to, but I guess I should hear from you is there's the G90, then the G90T. What were there actual differences between those two specific ones?
They are, but it's relatively minor.
Oh, okay,
and
got
I don't have the specs in front of me, but I know one is the camera support. So,
okay.
The T is more. I wouldn't say it's turbo version, but you have the 64 megapixel support.
I see. That's what it was.
And it does not have it on the G90 itself.
Interesting.
So, and then there's one other small area that I just can't recall at the moment of the spec difference.
Well, I think it brings up a very important point that even though we are seeing gaming chips like this one, for example, coming out, it doesn't mean that they're any less capable as everyday smartphone capable chips.
Yeah.
So clearly you'll be able to have a good daily experience, but you fire up that PUBG, it's going to be, and you know what, the reference devices that they had that we have some footage of from the event, we actually played with one of them in a more casual setting.
Outside of the demo area, which I loved.
Yeah, exactly. And we played, did you play PUBG? I played PUBG.
I did.
Yeah.
I suck.
It was, it looked and performed beautifully, and granted it's a reference device, so maybe not everything is perfect on that one, but that's to be expected. Still, the game performed at a really good clip. It still looked really nice.
So you're saying that I didn't suck? I think I did suck.
The device performed well. Not so much, maybe.
The device performed great.
It looked beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing where these chips are going to end up, especially in terms of what smartphone manufacturers are going to support it. And we did get one at the event.
Yeah, Xiaomi was there. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that how large their market is here in India.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, they're huge.
Every Xiaomi video I've ever done for you guys, and even for myself, the analytics are just through the
crazy
roof.
in India.
Yeah, they've been leading the market in India for at least the last year. So their numbers are always high. So it was great to have them talk about being one of the first ones to use the G90.
They have a ton of Mi stores here, right?
They do.
Yeah, I think we passed by one in Delhi.
Yeah, we
did. I
did.
was like, it's a Mi store.
We did. No, and I think that, I love the fact that Xiaomi's on board because one of the things that we've been discussing is obviously the story of MediaTek, the fact that obviously you have been powering that mid-range, and you're pretty much bringing some very interesting flagship specs. You showed the benchmarks and how it compares to the 730. It is
730G,
the 730G from Qualcomm. There were even some comparisons and benchmarks to the 855.
Right, that was interesting.
Yeah. And so yesterday that we were in the panel, the biggest conversation was.
Well, you were.
Yeah. Well,
you two were.
Yeah. The biggest conversation was the price point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Xiaomi is aggressive about pricing. You guys are aggressive about pricing. And one of the things that I've noticed about being here in India, period, is just how sensitive the market is. Not sensitive in the concept of cheap. They're sensitive in the concept of, I want the most for my money. The argument for not buying an iPhone is not that it's 20,000 rupees. It's what I'm getting for 20,000 rupees.
Yeah,
I'm just getting a phone.
It's how big is the difference in the specs or in the performance of what you actually need and use versus that price point.
Yeah.
It was a very enlightening experience because we did do a meetup as well in Delhi and got to meet, well, the majority of the people that were there were also fellow creators who are, small creators in India, but still they're part of the audience and they were asking us questions. I remember we were getting a lot of requests to continue looking at devices that are prominent in India, and a lot of them have your chips.
They do. Yeah. And I think I was saying the recent, when you're talking price points in India, what we call the new premium, that mid-range, that high to mid-level range device. I think it's somewhere for US dollars between like 150 and 280, 290. So that's what you're saying. They're very the consumers in India are very particular about what features they want. They still want that high-end performance, but they want it to be at a price that's reasonable.
Right.
How much is the relationship between MediaTek and its OEMs, or the manufacturers, I should say? How close is that relationship in terms of pricing? Because Xiaomi, as we know, they're pretty aggressive with pricing, but the story of MediaTek is also like democratizing tech,
right.
Making it accessible to as many people as possible, which obviously is important in a market like India.
Definitely. The relationship on the pricing, we really don't have a lot to do with, right? We sell the chip. Our teams work on the chip with the OEMs and ensuring they have the features that they want, but we don't really have any control over the end product price.
I see. Yeah, because somebody was asking during the panel, do you think that a 10,000 rupee phone, and I had to Google the
it's like
conversion.
$140.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
149 probably is the price point that would be. But that would be fantastic if it was possible. But what trade-offs might there be?
Yeah.
But
I think he was wishful thinking that it might get to that, but
no, I don't think it will. It's I mean, if we're talking mid-rangers, we're talking the $400, $350, somewhere around their price point.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I don't. Like, if that's what it's competing. Like, here's the thing. Like, there are some very aggressive entry level smartphones, but not everything is switched on.
You're right.
In these phones, or the experience is not necessarily the best, or the materials. So I know companies are doing a lot to figure out how to aggressively address the market.
Yeah.
Because regardless, one of the things that I've learned. I mean, right now, for example, Samsung's numbers were down, I think, 40%? And it was because their high-end phones are not selling.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't think that it's just an India thing.
No.
I don't think that it's just an India thing. I think that consumers are like, all right, fine, if I'm going to pay $1,000 for a phone, it's not going to be every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think in general, like, users are becoming more discerning about what the difference in the feature sets are versus what the price difference are. And the technology is getting so good that some of it's imperceptible, right?
Yep.
How much faster does it need to be, and are you going to even use all those features?
Yeah. Every little bit of a smartphone is becoming better and better, so that, like, for example, on the software front, if only OnePlus, for example, would make a phone that has Oxygen OS but lesser specs for lesser money, most people will probably be happy with that phone.
Well, technically they kind of do. They're just not branded as OnePlus.
Exactly.
They're called Realme.
That's fair. That's fair.
And one other interesting thing about the Indian market is there's still a pretty good population that's using feature phones.
Yeah.
So right now they're still having that switch over from feature phone to smartphone and what they're calling the smart feature phone, 4G smart feature phone. So that's, again, at that lower price point, but you're getting a smartphone to replace your feature phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, here's the thing. Yesterday we were having the discussion of cars and everything. That's the thing. Like, Toyota did not launch a more expensive car. What they did was launch Lexus. Nissan didn't launch a more expensive car. They launched Infiniti.
Oh yeah.
BMW ended up launching. They ended up acquiring the Mini company and So it's one of those things where most companies will do their best to not confuse the consumer over their branding. The only company that hasn't done that, and I don't know how they've been successful with it, or I don't know how long it's going to last, is the case of Samsung. They're the only company that hasn't spun off a separate brand for lesser specs. They keep their same brand. And they even use the same Galaxy brand for like the very inexpensive phones.
Yeah.
They're the only company that I've seen succeed with it. But then we've got an Apple that's only going to be the high end. We've got a Xiaomi that's, not... Xiaomi is playing, but then they launched Poco phone.
Yep.
And then we've got Oppo, who spun off OnePlus, spun off Realme, spun off Vivo.
Yep.
And for some of them, some of these companies have come to the point where now Oppo is now just an ODM for these companies. So it's one of those things where it's going to be rather interesting. I don't think that's going to... I think the Xiaomi is going to get to a certain level or spin it off with a different brand.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, even Xiaomi have their own gaming wing in Black Shark at this point.
Shark, yeah.
Which was interesting because at the launch, there was the announcement of the Black Shark 2 Pro. And I was like, oh, is the chip going to be in that? And then unfortunately, we didn't get that news.
Yeah, they haven't said anything else much about the G90 chip other than they'll be the first one to have in a device. Yeah,
I do want to come back to just sort of the story of MediaTek in general, and we can also kind of rein in the India market as well.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Oh, yeah,
Which type of rain?
Yeah, that's true.
Lord.
Thankfully, you can't really hear it, but it's coming down.
Oh, trust me, I recorded the daily earlier, and because I was using the shotgun, I literally had to switch to the lav because it was bad. Like it was just hitting the window. Really
dang.
Bad.
Actually, you know what? This reminds me. Normally, after our mid-break, we have a recurring segment where we ask guests or even each other, what is in your pocket now? So, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to share
nothing in my pocket.
Oh, you got nothing? Oh, okay. No smartphones on you or anything?
Not a smartphone that I would say I'm carrying right now.
Fair enough. We're gonna keep it legal here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, going back to the story of MediaTek in general, I find it so interesting that because we've been in the industry for quite a while. I mean, we've known you from many years back, and I remember always seeing people talk about MediaTek when that word comes up with any smartphone or any product. But now it's a whole new world because we went to an event yesterday, the panel that you two were on. And there was a display that showed all the products that MediaTek is in.
Yeah. I
was flabbergasted. Amazon products and routers and small cameras. Yeah. These things I did not know.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. And I don't know if that's because we need to do a better job talking about it, probably. But there's new products coming out every day that we see. Like you said, it's not necessarily just the India market, but there's been some unique products here. The Paytm is a big mobile payment system in India.
Yep.
They've got a new product for merchants that uses our chip. But it's about, now it's over 1.5 billion devices a year that use a MediaTek chipset.
I see.
And, the smart home, smart speakers, we're number one in voice assistant devices, number one in smart speakers for market share. The Kent iCam is one that we showcased at the panel as well. And it's like I believe it's car cam.
Yeah, a dash cam of sorts.
Yeah, dash cam. Those have become popular too. So yeah, it's a wide range of products from voice assistant microwaves, like you said, a lot of the Amazon products.
I was
Echo.
shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, you were really into one feature that MediaTek actually pioneered.
Well, here's the thing: a couple. So I'm going to start with the fact that one of my favorite fitness watches ever has been the Polar M600.
Oh,
I had no. So it wasn't until I landed in Taipei. And we go to your offices for the first time, and it was like the display of everything that's there. And I remember that when Polar sent it to me, I asked them what was the chip, and they did not want. Well, it's not that they didn't want; they just didn't know, or their PR just didn't know. They didn't provide any information. And I'm like, okay, so this is actually the only. So you know that Wear OS has that limitation where the algorithm is actually Google's algorithm. It's not. It's actually Qualcomm's algorithm if you use the Snapdragon 2100. It's not until the 3100 that they made the swap and allowed OEMs to provide their own. And so you're literally, if you're going, their pedometer, absolutely everything is triggered by, so it doesn't matter if you're using a Fossil or whatever watch you're using, the result is going to be exactly the same. And that was a problem. And so I remember that when I tested the M600, that was like the only watch that really got my pace correct. And obviously, Polar, they literally invented the heart rate monitor.
Oh, yeah.
The one that we use today. And I was like, crap, so you guys make this. and then, your engineers told me the story, how they actually worked closely together with you guys to be able to build a custom-made watch that would actually address the algorithm that they wanted to throw in there. And it still is the watch that I recommend most.
Yeah. But I think MediaTek, when it started more than 20 years ago, they were focused on more of those multimedia products. And then when they got into the smartphone business, they decided it was time to do more of that marketing. And they were going global. So I think it's taken us some time to start working on that reputation that we're more than just a smartphone brand.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Your smartphone business is how big of your business?
It's usually between about 35 and 40% of our overall business.
It's a good chunk.
Yeah, it's a good chunk, but then all those other products, the TV side, the smart home side, makes up a larger share actually of our business than the smartphone business. So we're more known for some of our other products than actually the smartphones.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when we reviewed the MateBook X Pro, the first MateBook X Pro from Huawei, that was the first time that I heard the term far field communication.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a technology that you guys made. I had no idea. And so, one of the things, it was that thing where you could talk to Cortana from up to 4 meters away.
Yep.
And that was like one of the major features of that MateBook X Pro from Huawei. And then it turns out that I started seeing it pop up on Amazon Echoes. And so, one of the things was like, so I got my first Echo. And I was like, man, this thing is so good. Because I could totally be in the bathroom from my apartment in Honduras. Literally, the Echo is at the other end of the room. And I could whisper the damn name. And that thing would hear me. And it wasn't until I go to Taiwan that I learned that that's the
part
reason
of our
why.
Technology. Yeah. It is amazing. It's really good. I have a ton of Echoes in my place too. And,
and of course,
maybe too many.
Of course you do. So you notice how the Echo doesn't just, the moment that the speaker hears you, it doesn't just hear your voice, but it also circles around and it points to where you are. It points to where the noise is coming from.
I didn't know that was what that was for.
Yeah. So have a look at it. It'll actually circle around and be like, oh, you're coming from that direction. You're coming from that direction. And it'll pick up. And that's how two people can actually talk to it as well. And it'll signal to where it's listening to.
And we've had so many conversations even after the panel yesterday about, why not have the branding on Amazon products and whatnot. Yeah. But I guess the question that I have, and really it's just up to obviously the manufacturers to actually disclose that information. But while you have smartphones and a lot of products that are clearly in markets like India, maybe China, or in any of these other markets, in the US, I guess a lot of people don't actually know that MediaTek is in a lot of those devices.
They don't.
Yeah. And also, since the smartphones don't make it to the US, I don't think I've ever seen a Realme in the US, for example.
Right.
What kind of push do you think that MediaTek might have in the Western market like the US?
I think you'll probably see more MediaTek. And we did talk about this a little bit yesterday, right? Smartphone is always the sexy business. Some of those other products aren't necessarily sexy, and being an ingredient in those where you're not as focused on specs like power, performance, battery life, like TVs. That's just not how you shop for a TV, right? Yeah. You trust a brand, and you just need a smart TV that has great picture quality and does the job. So probably around the 5G, you're going to see a little more attention on what MediaTek's able to power on the device side, smartphone device side, in North America. But I think too, the reputation's changed too, because we have some of these big brands like, Amazon, and there's a few others that sometimes we can't even mention and talk about. But and even on the random side, like the ASIC chip side, the specialized chips for data call centers, or Microsoft Sphere is using that, stuff we designed specifically for them from our ASICs chops. So I think you'll start seeing more and more MediaTek brand recognition or name recognition in North America as more of these home products, and then 5G devices start hitting the market.
Yeah.
Well, and that was another thing. I mean, that 5G chip that still doesn't have a name.
Right.
Still doesn't have a name. But all right, so you announced the first ever chip where the 5G modem is integrated into the SoC. It's part of it. So we're obviously expecting a far more efficient 5G chip.
Yeah.
Less less movement of data. Everything is in one place. But then obviously the challenge is not just that, the efficiency, but also the fact that you plan to aggressively to offer it to everybody else. Like, it's not one of those high-end chips. You're actually planning on offering it to everybody else. For me, that's a big deal.
Yeah. I think for starters, it's definitely a high-end chip. It's a flagship chip, but I think everything that's coming out 5G in the next year will be a flagship device. It's going to be everybody's first 5G device, no matter the brand. But having Media come out with that type of spec for a 5G chip and integrated SoC, I think will change the pricing, in the next couple of years. When there's more competition in the market, there's only really 2 companies offering 5G SoCs to the open market, right? Mm-hmm. That's Qualcomm and that's us. The other big companies are making them for themselves.
Yeah.
So I think you'll definitely start to see that new premium pay off, where you're going to get a 5G device at a more affordable price, quicker probably than you have with the 4G smartphone market.
I would love that marriage of the gaming chip and the high-speed mobile internet.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome, especially on an affordable device. I would love to see something like that for sure.
I think all that stuff's going to just start to blend, right?
Yeah.
With 5G, you're going to be able to do some different things with the gaming. The AI, we talk about smart and fast. You're not going to have 5G without some really incredible AI just to manage it all.
Yeah. You made a really wonderful point during the panel yesterday about the user experiences and how that's something that you really prioritize.
Yeah.
But as we've learned, and you mentioned earlier, that the Indian audience is so tech savvy and they're so into the specs. Do you find it is it tough to actually cater the message among all the different markets in that sense? Because we agree, we come from a certain creator space where everyone just wants to know what's the daily usage.
Yeah.
But our eyes have been open to just how much people really care about the spec sheet here.
It is a challenge for different markets. Like you said, India's very different in that way, where they are so much more savvy about what the processing power is, what type of AI performance. They'll look at the Geekbench scores and AnTuTu scores, things like that.
I haven't looked at benchmark scores in a while.
Yeah.
Same. But I think I need to start doing a better job at that, honestly.
but in general, even, we're even hearing from the device makers too. Everybody's focused on the experience, right? Mm-hmm. It's how they sell to the consumers. What experience are you bringing to them that matter the most? And, you guys know as well as I do, camera's a big one.
Yeah.
Everybody's always looking up, what you can do with either AI on the camera or how many different, cameras you can support.
Yeah.
So that's a long way to say, it's a challenge. But when that's the market in India, when they're going to see the specs, we do some different things online, like Flipkart's one of the biggest e-commerce sites in India, along with Amazon. So we have specific pages for MediaTek on Flipkart, and that's where a lot of devices, where they'll go look up information before they buy. They won't necessarily always buy from our site, but we can see how many devices get looked at and sold off the Flipkart site for us.
Yeah. There was some talk about, obviously we've been talking about India because we're here, but there was also some talk about the Philippines, and I kept thinking about, what is it like in Latin America? When it comes to smartphone discernment and, what people want.
Latin America is either one of 2 extremes. Whenever you have a company like Samsung do that branding where they launch the Galaxy J and the Galaxy Y and all these affordable phones, that caters perfectly to Latin America because they are brand sensitive. They're either Samsung users or Huawei users or Apple users. So it doesn't really matter what you throw at them, or they would rather buy a secondhand phone that has the logo than buy a new phone that probably has better capabilities but is from an unknown brand. And so for them, that whole strategy from Samsung works out perfectly because everybody has a Galaxy. It's just not a Galaxy S. So yes, you have people that'll buy the higher end phones, but I've had cases where I've resold phones so easily over there because people are sensitive to the price and they don't care if it's used. They just want the branding. And so that's Latin America. That is not what I notice here in India at all. Not.
Yeah.
They want the latest and greatest. They don't want to pay as much, or if they're going to pay, it better be worth it. It better be their money's worth.
Yeah.
It's either the fact that they're gonna. I love that. It's not just they're very passionate, but also it's like their level of education and technology is incredible.
Yeah.
Like we had some very educated conversations in that meetup, and I loved it. I loved that because it's one of those things where I'm like, my God, in my reviews, we actually drifted away from covering specifications. We drifted away from covering this information because the U.S. consumer is our largest market, and so. The average consumer doesn't care about specs, particularly in the United States. No. It's also another brand-sensitive country
Very
where
much
it's all, it's all about, everybody wants their Apple product because it's the brand that's right now more popular. And so, in the end, I think that I don't know if it's that we need to approach things differently because there's a bigger market out there of products that are so good, starting with brands like Xiaomi. The experience that we've had with Oppo devices.
Oh yeah.
Right now we were in Japan. Those photos that we took with that Oppo Reno, and so there's a broader world out there, and people are just stuck with their iPhones, stuck with their Galaxies, and they're not necessarily the best phones. And I loved how I felt that in every single conversation that I had here in India. People were like, "Yes, but I'm not going to pay that much for a phone." Like it wasn't the I can't pay. It was I not pay.
Yeah, I won't pay.
It's not worth their dollar.
Because
or whatever currency. But
while we would sing the praises of a device like the Pixel 3a because of its camera, we had so many people come up to us say that the processor is not what they want, or the actual features are not there,
or how expensive they sell it here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a more expensive phone here in India.
There's so much choice. Globally versus North America, right? The number of devices you see in a place like India or China compared to, I think, what consumers have to select from in North America, it's very different. And like you said, Jaime, it's the differences now are minuscule.
Yeah.
You can get a really good smartphone from just about any brand at a price point that you want.
Yeah. And with significantly better experiences.
Yeah.
I argue with people. It's like, iPhone's not a bad phone. It's not worth $1,000.
Yeah.
Like if you do the math over, and I don't care about the stainless steel and everything, you break that thing and it's $500.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where I love the mentality of everybody that I talk to here. I love that mentality. I'm not willing to pay that much for a phone. And I wish that that's what would have happened in countries like the United States. And I think that will only grow the more we expose everything else that's out there. And I've been seriously considering, like, for example, in the past, we chose not to review mid-rangers because obviously we don't have a 20-person team.
Yeah.
So we have to be like very picky over what we review. But either I come up with another product where it's a simpler way to review a phone, but like there's a bigger market out there, and I feel that it deserves being covered, particularly with everything that we saw with the G90.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's something that I totally want to test out. That's something that I'm totally willing to recommend.
Yeah.
Because to be fully honest with you, I feel that the experience is all about the things that annoy me the most about gaming that make me not want to use a phone.
Right.
And you're addressing them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. It's very specific pain points to gamers. But you guys also pointed out it's a chipset that you could drop into any smartphone, and it'd be just fine. You don't necessarily need to use those gaming features. It's got the capability that some of our other chips have as well.
And even as picky as some Indian users, I'm just speaking specifically, even as picky as I might be about the spec sheets, it doesn't necessarily mean that each person's desires are the same.
No.
So somebody who really wants to play PUBG will actually have the choices available to them, including the G90 and the G90T. Somebody that wants more of a camera experience could still get that while still having this particular chip. And it has, it's nice. And I love the term democratizing when it comes to all of these pieces of tech, because it's a wonderful way of looking at it.
I think that's always been a message from when the MediaTek was founded. Mm-hmm. The idea was to make technology accessible to the masses, because obviously we're in Taiwan, and our founder was conscious of cultures and economies and what advantages technology brings to people, or what opportunities it offers. So it's a good goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kevin, it's been an enlightening trip.
I'm glad you guys were able to join us in India.
So much
yeah,
for the invite.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a blast.
This trip has been great.
Yeah. India's always educational in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Aside from the food, what's your favorite thing?
Oh, there you go.
In India?
Yeah.
For me, it's always the people. I always say India is an assault on your senses in every way, good and bad.
Yeah.
Right? The smells, the sounds, the food, all of it. So it's a colorful place, and in general, I think they're like some of the most kind, happy people.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's always an experience being here. You just you feel differently about it when you leave.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Josh?
I have to. I'm sticking with the food. What are you talking about? I'm not going to say not the food.
What about the tea? I mean, come on. You
I lump them
together.
together. I do lump them together, to be honest. But the tea has been amazing. But I will say that the food has just been the most memorable part for sure. And the fact that we had an experience of learning how to make some of it, I can't wait to try making these dishes myself.
We made curry. Yeah. For me, honestly, we were having this conversation after the meetup, and I just have to express it, particularly to everybody that's watching from India. I come from a culture where I love where I'm from, and I love going back all the time. But one of the things that I don't like about my culture is how much we complain. We complain about all the problems. We complain about all the things we don't like. And it's, instead of seeing our glass half full, and instead of seeing, that the pasture is also great in certain things, here we always want the green pasture from everybody else. Mm-hmm. Those things that are available in the United States that are not available in Latin America. And, I've spent this year, mostly this year, I don't know if you saw what I wrote for my birthday. And I was like,
for your birthday.
For my birthday, I posted a photo, and I'm like, I'm going to stop seeing the grass greener on the other side, and I'm going to start enjoying this green. Mm-hmm. And so it's beautiful to come to a country where people are genuinely proud to be Indian.
Yeah.
Where people are not like, they obviously want a better, like they would love to have a better phone in their pockets, for example, but it's not envy. No. It's to a certain degree admiration. It's to a certain degree knowledge over what other things they did their homework, they know, but it's like, this is what I can use and this is what I have.
Yeah.
And, I loved how they, if there's something to praise, they will praise it. Mm-hmm. If there's something, and even if there was something to complain about, I loved how they were always like funny about it.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, that they made it sound like a joke. Like, what did you think about the cows on the street and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I love that. Or, for example, yesterday we were at the panel, and they were like, so how's the food treating you? Any stomach issues already? And I'm like, no, it's been doing great. He's like, don't worry. Have you done some street food? And I'm like, not yet. Oh, that's what we need. We need to send you home with problems. That's what we need to do. And you know what? I love that. I love a culture. I have to praise India. I would really love to come back. I would really love to come back. I had friends. I have a lot of pilot friends who fly in different airlines here. And, at first they were like, yeah, but you get to see a lot of poverty that we don't get to see in Honduras. And I'm like, you know what? We did see absolutely everything. Sure. Like every country, like nothing's perfect. You go to San Francisco and you see more homeless people than you see here. I'll tell you that much. And so, but it's that beauty where people are proud of what they have. They're proud of their culture. They're proud of their religions. They're proud of how much they embrace diversity, which I love. And you know what? It's when you're in a place like that where people are shiny and happy, that makes it all the while. It completely erases certain things that that you see that are probably not pleasant. I didn't see them as unpleasant. This is just the idiosyncrasy of a culture. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. It took me a second to cross that hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it did seem to me that like the certain jubilation and elation from people wasn't quite there until you actually engage with them.
Right.
Like you cross that threshold and all of a sudden everybody is just so lovely.
Yeah, everybody is, man.
Yeah, I think you guys experienced the same when people first come to India, and you explained it really well. It's the mindset. It's that joyful mindset, despite any circumstances. They enjoy life. Yeah.
It's the same thing I say a lot on my own social media and content. Both can be true. Mm-hmm. Like, people don't realize half the time, especially in Western cultures, that both can be true. You can want what another person has and be not really envious, but you can aspire to it while still loving what you have.
Yeah.
Both can be true. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So that's true. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
India, thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you so much.
It's such a beautiful time. We're going to go ahead and get into the outro right now. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. And to any of our Indian viewers and listeners, thank you once again. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for listening or watching the podcast if you're on the YouTube side. For you YouTube viewers, or for any of you that wants to head over to the comment section of the YouTube version of the podcast, you can go ahead and answer the question. How do you feel about the MediaTek Helio G90? What types of products do you have that have MediaTek processors in them? And in general, any of our Indian viewers and listeners, we just want to give you another thanks for being such wonderful, gracious hosts to us while we were here with MediaTek in Delhi and Mumbai. You can find all of our social media handles inside of the show description, the show notes, depending on where you are listening or watching this show. And from there, you can also follow Pocketnow on all of the different social media platforms. From there, we're just going to go ahead and call it on this one, and we will see you in our next episode.